We are so honored to have you here. And following that presentation, yes, round of applause for sure. I don't know if you know, probably a lot of you do that. Following that presentation, she went on to be interviewed by Alpha News and has given her presentation to many groups across the city and beyond. So we're so proud of you, Jinny. Thank you. A little bit about Jinny's background. She was born in Korea and she came to the United States as an international student in high school. She graduated with the highest GPA and she went on to Smith College and graduated with a degree in economics. From there, she worked at various companies in finance despite obstacles and became a C-suite executive. She is the Chief Operating Officer at Brooklands Capital Strategies, headquartered in San Francisco, and the managing partner and co-founder of Pacific Bridge Asset Management in Seoul, Korea, an affiliate of Brooklands. Her experiences shed light on the differences between the two countries, North and South Korea, and how those differences play out in the lives of their citizens. Keeping in mind that the North Koreans made a choice 70 years ago to embrace their form of government. Really important to know. That's very important to know. Tonight, Jinny will share her thoughts along with some data about our choices in the upcoming critical elections this November. Welcome, Jinny Choi.
Hopefully everybody can hear me, okay? I have a loud voice. If it's too loud, tell me, just give me a signal. So, anyway, thank you very much. It's been almost a year since I've been here talking to you about socialism versus capitalism, using South Korea and North Korea as an example, what happens to a country when you choose one ideology or the other. Well, today, I'm here to talk to you about presidential election. You guys are standing right here in the fork in the road, which way to go. As you guys all know, I'm still a South Korean citizen, so I do not have your privilege of voting. But I thought, hey, all of you guys are feeling the burden of whom you should choose. So I thought how I would approach and how I would make the choice in presidential election using data and fact and analysis. So as Carol said very kind words about me, yes, I've worked in finance for over 25 years, meant I interviewed a lot of people, I hired a lot of people, and I also fired a lot of people. In all those experiences, one thing I learned is that when you are hiring people, you really have to do due diligence on their track record, on what they have done in previous jobs, how well they did, how poorly they did. And based on those facts, you should hire. Of course, I've hired people based on my feeling. Was the last two candidates, and I thought, I like this person better. And let me tell you, it was a bad mistake. So I learned it at that time, do not hire based on your feelings. So presidential election, yes, of course, you are choosing the leader of the country. But at the end of the day, as Hannah so eloquently said, it is choosing somebody for the job. And as Hannah said, it's for people, meaning the president and every government employee works for you. So in a way, you are hiring a person for the job. It's a big job, but you are still a hiring process. In order to do that, I thought you should look at the fact and data analysis. I will go through a lot of things here. I did a lot of my own analysis. I downloaded a lot of data from different organizations to do my own analysis and show you here so that I can avoid any bias out there. It's true, right or left, and any news media you approach and you see the data, they can put the data a lot of different ways to manipulate you. And I wanted to avoid that, so that I did my own analysis, and this is how I would approach it. So, given the fact there's a lot of data, please ask me questions as I go along. If you don't understand it, just raise your hand and talk to me, okay? So let's go. And what is this not working? Okay, so what do you care about in this 2024 elections? What are some of the things that is important to you when you choose the president in this time?
The border.
Yes, the border crisis. That's one of the very big issue. What else?
The economy.
Economy, inflation. Yes, those are very things important. So I wanted to kind of see what people are thinking about in this presidential election. So I looked at a lot of different surveys, and I brought you guys 2 surveys that I looked at. The first one was by the Associated Press, and they asked over 1,000 people and what they care about in this presidential election. And they said economy is number 1 important. Second one was the future of the democracy of the US, government spending, immigration, border security, healthcare, abortion, foreign policy, gun policy, crime, issues related to ethnicity, and climate change. Those are some of the things that are important to the voters. As you can tell, number 1 is economy. And in that particular economy, I think Republicans cares more about economy than Democrats, but still Democrats also thought this was the most important thing. The second most important thing was the future of a democracy of the US. We'll go over that because it can mean any number of things to a lot of different people. But these are some of the things people said that's important to you, as just you guys said, pretty similar things. And this is another survey that I looked at, and it's Data for Progress, and they also asked over 2,000 people, and it is very similar. Jobs and economy, the number 1. Number 2, immigration. Number 3, inflation. Number 4, threat to democracy, programs like Social Security and Medicare, national security, foreign policy, healthcare, abortion, taxes, and government spending. I looked at a lot of different surveys, and these were pretty much representative of all different surveys. So based on those, what I used to do when we are hiring candidates, a lot of people interview the same candidates, right? I didn't want them to just go into the interview and just walk away and say, oh, I like this person, or I don't like that person. That's not good enough for me. So what I always have given them is an assessment card. So I made one for president. Right? We need assessment of the president. So based on what we talked about, these are 5 different buckets of important area that US voters care about. Based on those, I also always talk about how important of each of these area is for the voters. Well, when you're hiring, how much of that is important in each of the people? Everybody will have a different view on how much of the importance it is. These are my example. For me, some of these, how I will rank these things. And based on those, you have to think about who had a better track record. In this president election, it's a really unique one because both candidates have been president. You don't usually get that kind of opportunity, but this one is. Both of them served 4 years presidency, and we have data and clear track record and analysis that you can get how they did in each of these areas. So these 5 areas, the first one is inflation and food cost. I think this is one of the things everybody talks about, is very important. Second one, immigration and border security. These are the border security, including national security, impacting the United States. Third one, economy, government spending, economy outlook, government spending, tax. As we talked about threat to democracy, I think it means a lot of different people, but I think the buckets of those are abortion, gun, climate change, issues related to race, ethnicity, and transgender. And the 5th bucket is foreign policy. I thought these are 5 very important buckets of the things that we should care when you guys are voting for the president. To be clear, it's in the bottom. To be clear, I will share this deck. Carol is going to send all of you guys, so you guys can look at them, including the video that I'm recording. The one thing I did not include here is a crime. The reason I didn't include a crime is, yes, crime is very important. But at the end of the day, crime is a very local issue. For example, let's say San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, crime rate is skyrocketing. It is true. But somebody living in Minnesota might not care. Because if crime is a lot to do with what's happening in your town and local. To be clear, of course, if there are crime is happening because of illegal immigrants and so forth, that would be included in the border security. So I didn't include a crime in this analysis. I also didn't include healthcare and social and Medicare. And the reason is Trump and Biden both didn't do a lot with these 3 categories in their presidency. And also, so far, what they have announced here for the new policies, they didn't really announce a lot in those 3 categories, so I decided not to include in this assessment card. I think all of you guys should have this assessment card in your own mind and put importance as you would see fit. And then let's go through assessment of each of the category so that you can come to the conclusion of who you should vote, is how I thought about it. So let's talk about inflation. So everybody's talking about inflation. How do you measure inflation? You probably heard a lot on TVs and so forth called CPI. It's Consumer Price Index. Consumer Price Index, so what I put together here is Consumer Price Index is come out monthly from US Bureau of Labor Statistics every month. So what I had put together here is from all the way from 2000 all the way to 2024 monthly data. So you can see how it moved throughout the time, and then Trump time, and then Biden when Biden was president. So it's a lot of data at you. However, you can see the red line is the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and then the blue line is CPI excluding food and energy. People call it as a core CPI because the food and energy can fluctuate a lot, and everything else put into the one basket. That is what's called the core CPI. What you want to see here as what good looks like would be the target is at 2% for the United States, which is the right number. You want to see the CPI number just going back around at the 2% at that mark without too much of variation. Whenever it's a tight control, you will see it moves right at that 2%. And Trump actually has done that. And when Trump got into the position, actually inflation was too low, which is also a drag to economy. He kind of pulled it up pretty quickly, as you can see, and then CPI stayed right at the target of the 2%. Biden comes in, as you can see the graph, it skyrockets. And it's just purely data coming from the US Bureau of Statistics, and it's just a data that I'm showing you. So based on this data, you would say Trump has done better of the CPI. But at the end of the day, does people care about CPI? No. What people care about is what you've paid at grocery stores. When you go to pump up your gas for your gas station, how much you're paying for a house, how much you're paying for clothing and all those things. That's what people care about. That pain comes from cumulative data. Meaning, yes, maybe it's a 2% every year, but what does that mean? If inflation is 8%, 9% year after year, the cumulative effect is going to hurt you. So this chart is, again, from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics data, is January 2021, and I basically dotted on the cumulative of all the inflation. Through January 2024, it's 18%. That's what you are feeling when you're going to grocery store. That's what you are seeing when you're going to clothing shopping. That's what everybody's feeling is though, gosh, these things are so expensive. It's because of this cumulative inflation. And that's what has been happening since Biden took an office. So in my view, Biden has not done as well as Trump did. But then I wanted to look at how Trump and Biden did compared to all of other presidency in the United States. What this data and this chart is showing you is average yearly inflation by president. It's all of the United States president. And as you can see, I know it's really small, and I really apologize for that. So Biden is number 3, highest inflation amongst all of the US presidency. Compared to Trump, he is actually at the bottom. He is the 4th from the bottom as the lowest inflation. But remember I told you, low inflation is also not good. You want to be targeted 2%. Trump has actually done that. It's a 1.9%. It's hard to meet that number, but he has done that. And Obama is lower than Trump by 1.4%. Is it good or is it not good? I will show you in the real wage. But as you can see, this is just based on data and analysis I've done, and it shows you clearly how Biden and Trump did under their presidency in the inflation perspective compared to all of the presidents. So the real wage is what's very important. Economists and the finance, we say nominal wage and the real wage. What that means is, let's say you're making $10 an hour. But if you went through Biden's presidency, even if you didn't get any adjustments on your salary, so you're still making $10, but because of an inflation of 18%, almost 20%, you need $12 an hour just to make the ends meet. That's what real wage is. So if you were actually looking at the real wage adjusted for the inflation, Obama time is actually not as good because it was too low in inflation. And as you can see from the Trump time, for the first time, actually real wages are going up. It's why a lot of people say, I used to feel better. I used to feel as I was richer under Trump. Is it because of this real wage? And as you can see from Biden, it took a nosedive. It's just a fact. It's just a data set. I am not giving you opinion or my views. But if I were to look at who has done better job in inflation perspective when I'm choosing a candidate, I think I will be comfortable enough to say it's going to be a Trump. Any questions on this data set? Yes. This one? Carter and Ford. Yeah, it's an interesting data set, isn't it? Oh, I can, yeah. All the way bottom is JFK, Eisenhower, Obama, Trump. Again, very, very low. Inflation is also not very good. Yes, sir?
So how is it that low inflation is bad? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding that.
Of course. So when it is very, very low inflation, so you think of it as an economy of United States as your own household. You want your own household to grow just a little bit. Not as too much high, but you want the whole United States economy to grow gradually. That way, because if every day is the same exact inflation, so today's dollar and 1 year later dollar or 2 years later dollar is exactly same value, you will never invest that money. Only when you lose a dollar value just a tiny bit, that forces and that encourages people to spend money. So exchange your dollar for goods, whether you're going out to spend for food or clothing or car, or whether you're investing into a stock market and so forth. You want to improve just a little bit because that means your dollar is losing value just a tiny bit, but because overall economy is growing. So because of that, Fed is trying to target that 2% every year as if they're target inflation. So whenever the Reserve is coming out and saying, we're still far away from our target 2%, that's what they're talking about. That is the healthiest economy that you can have. Hopefully I answered your question, but. Okay, so now we talked about inflation, so let's talk about next topic we talked about, which is the border security. For me, border security matters the most because I'm from South Korea, as you all know. I'm South Korean, and we have only one border between South Korea and North Korea. So border means direct impact to our national security. I personally believe if you don't have a border, you do not have a country. So that's why it's important for me. So fourth chart I wanted to get is, this is straight data from US Customs and Border Control. They actually have a great data set in their website. You have to register and you have to download a lot of data, but what I have done here is I wanted to show you the data of the illegal immigrants coming in as a moving average all the way from 2000 to all the way to 2023. And I divide the color by each president. So Bush era, Obama era, Trump era, and Biden era. As you can tell, actually Bush, at a time, illegal immigrants was pretty higher. And Obama actually brought that down a lot, which is great. And I think some of you might know it is because Obama kicked out a lot of people that were illegal in the United States, and that reduced a lot of illegal immigrants. I think he kicked out about 3 million people, which was a good job of Obama did. And then came to Trump. As you can see, he kind of left it, pretty much kept it flat, except 1 year blip that is going up. If you remember, this was a whole lot of illegal immigrants and migrant crises were coming in. And one of the loopholes they learned is that if somebody is coming in with a family, as a family or unaccompanied minor, government was not kicking them out so quickly. And you can apply for asylum and you get to stay in the United States. That was one of the rules that it placed. So we had a lot of illegal immigrants, and that's when Trump issued some of the executive order to reduce the illegal immigrants. And that's why you see at the end of his presidency, it went down quite drastically. And then in the Biden period, as you can see, I don't have to say it myself, but it went up quite big. It makes sense, right? Because when Biden took an office, he got rid of all the policies that Trump put in place to reduce the illegal immigrants, and he adopted open border policy. So, of course, it's no surprise you're going to see a lot of illegal immigrants coming in. Some of the people say, hey, Jinny, you're very inhumane to say we should not accept illegal immigrants and so forth. Well, I don't agree because I am legal immigrants, so I care. But most of all, I thought about, okay, what are these people coming in? Who are these people? Are these people really just looking for opportunities? Is that why the people coming? What would scare me a lot, I thought about? It's the criminals. Again, this data set I downloaded from US Customs and Border Control, and I did analysis and I wanted to show you. Physical 17 all the way to 2024. So let me read it to you as what US Border Control has called a criminal. They call it criminal non-citizens. Refers to individuals who have been convicted, not allegedly or arrested, convicted of one or more crimes, whether in the US or abroad. Prior to interdiction by the US Border Patrol, it does not include convictions of a conduct that is not deemed criminal by the US. So these are purely number of people who were convicted as criminals coming to the United States. And these are the people that US Border Patrol, thank God, caught them and then kicked them out. Number of people coming in 2024 alone is almost 22,000 convicted criminals coming in. Honestly, when I looked at this data, it scared Jesus out of me. And it's also very clear. Do you see how the graph is just going down in the Trump era and then just skyrockets under Biden? I didn't expect that. I thought it will be probably flattish or slightly going up. I wasn't expecting to be this drastic graph when I plotted on the graph chart, and that's why I said, okay, I need to show you guys what I found. So that was criminals. Then I told myself, okay, are these criminals like retail theft? Maybe somebody stole $5 at Target. Is that what you're talking about? So then they also have extensive criminal data. I downloaded them. Okay, this is a lot of data, so let me just quickly walk you through. Forget about all these lines. Just focus on the black bars. These are homicide and manslaughter charges. They were convicted. During the Trump era, we had yearly 3 people, 3 people, 2 people, and 3 people. They skyrockets in 2021, 60, 62, 29, and 40. These are homicide and manslaughter convicted murderers coming in. Not only that, all these different lines are all different kind of crimes. Those are battery, robbery, larceny, theft, fraud, illegal drug possession, trafficking, sexual offenses, assault, battery, domestic violence, driving under influence, illegal weapons possessions, transport, trafficking, and all others. I also didn't expect the number of the criminals will be so drastically changed in the Trump era versus Biden era. When I downloaded data, it was extensive data. I had to do a lot of things to be able to put in the graph, and then I was like, holy macaroni, this is scary. 60 convicted murderers coming into the United States? How many got away? That is what I think is the most scary part. So, some of the key facts I wanted to walk you through. Since President Biden took an office, there has been about 7.5 million encounters nationwide. This is as of October 2023. It's more, obviously, up until this point. That includes 1.7 million known getaways, meaning 1.7 million people are in the United States that we have no idea where they belong in this conviction chart. I have no idea who they are. And put that in perspective, Minnesota has a 5.7 million people. So number of people who came to the United States in 2023, since Biden took office, 7.5 million. More than every single person in Minnesota are in the United States. So when people say, hey, illegal immigrants is not a big issue, I would completely disagree. More, in 2023 alone, there were 169 individuals whose names appeared in terrorist watch list. So almost 170 people in 2023 alone were trying to come into the United States where there were a terrorist watch list. And those were the people they caught. And however many that we didn't catch, you have no idea. And as we talked about, they arrested in 2023 35,433 aliens with criminal convictions or outstanding warrants. Those are people trying to coming in, including 600 gang members. As I said, border security, illegal immigrants data, I expected to be bad, but I wasn't honestly expecting to be this bad when I looked into it. And this is what kind of upset me, because a lot of people say the illegal immigrants are not criminals. I beg different. This is the data from US Border Patrol. I didn't make up this data. Yes, ma'am?
Do they track cartel members?
Yes, they do. So those are what the gang members are, 598 gang members that include some of the cartels. But as you would know, cartel, who belongs to which cartel, is very difficult data for US to have. And it's the data Mexico, if they have it in the full data, of course they will share with the United States, but not always, so it's hard to tell. So as we talked about illegal immigrants, okay, these are the illegal immigrants coming in. But then I thought, how much is costing us?
Jim, before you do that.
Yes, sir.
Those are people then who were caught at the border, who didn't get in, or were in.
They count that as if it's a convicted criminals, they kick back. So they're not allowed to enter the United States. Having said that, I'm pretty sure they will try again, wouldn't they? Because they'll keep trying. And thankfully, US Border Patrol I'm sure they're catching everyone they can, but as you've seen a lot of TV footages or the video footages in social media or news, a lot of people just walk by and who knows who they are, right?
They throw the IDs in.
Yeah.
So the cartel make more money off of smuggling people than drugs?
I will go through that about the drugs in next page. Hold that thought, sir. So I want to talk about the taxpayers, right? So a lot of times in news media, I've seen in the New York City mayor is trying to put about $50 million or so, then trying to give illegal immigrants debit cards and so forth. Okay, 50 million, 70 million, whatever the case is, a lot of money, but then I was thinking, is that all? Like, how much is actually costing all of the United States? So I found this group called the FAIR. They're called the Federation for American Immigration Reform. They have done extensive study and analysis to see how much is actually costing the United States. And I thought their study was very impressive, so I wanted to show you. So I'll walk you through. Total federal level, they're spending $66 billion. And local and states are putting in $115 billion. Total of $182 billion. And this is on 2023, 1 year I'm talking about. I'm not talking about multiple years, I'm talking about 1 year. Spent $182 billion. And illegal immigrants that are in the United States actually do pay some of the taxes. So they paid about $16 billion in federal tax. They paid local, state, and local taxes for $15 billion, coming out to about $31 billion. Net from a total spend, net comes out to $150 billion. The United States spending taxpayer money for illegal immigrants. So when they're talking about, hey, the debit cards of how much, I don't give a shit, quite honestly. That's a tiny, tiny money compared to the actual number that we are actually spending. It's almost they're trying to show us the little numbers to hide the big numbers. And I thought this analysis I thought was done so well because it includes all of the welfare, all of the Medicare, all of the costs that the United States is paying for. And then put that money into perspective. United States spent $259 billion for veterans benefits and services. It's a Memorial Day weekend. We all talk about how our veterans are not getting the money and service they deserve. Can you imagine what that $150 billion can do for our veterans? As you said, let's talk about drug, right? This wasn't in my radar when I decided to do this analysis. I wanted to kind of focus on the illegal immigrants coming in, the criminals coming in, as well as how much it's costing. Then I found this drug data from DEA and US Customs and Border Control. I downloaded data, and it really scared me. So this is drugs seized at border. This is by pound. I know, I'm throwing a lot of data at you, so forget about all the lines. Just focus on this orange bar. Do you see that orange bar skyrocketing? Unfortunately, they didn't have the data prior to 2019 that I could get, so I couldn't show to you, so apologies. But from 2019, they shared the data, which is why I was able to show you. It's 864% growth. That's fentanyl. The orange bar is a fentanyl. Every other drugs is on that line. Those are cocaine, heroin, ketamine, I don't know what that is actually, sorry. Meth and other drugs. As you can see, those lines kind of stay around, same line, maybe increase a little bit and then decrease a little bit. But if you look at this data, what I thought was, this is intentional. Drug dealers basically said, hey, forget about any other drugs. Let's push fentanyl. That's how I thought of what the data showed me. This seems like very much of an intentional push by the drug dealers coming in, pushing a drug to the United States. And this is what was seized at the border. How many are not seized? I am sure it's a lot more than seized. In 2023, the amount of pounds of fentanyl was seized by was 27,000 pounds of fentanyl that were seized. So then I looked into what will be the lethal dosage. So apparently it's really low. It's only 2 milligrams or so forth. So 27 pounds of fentanyl can kill all of the United States people. How many people in the United States? 333 million people. 27,000 pounds of fentanyl can kill all of the United States people 18 times. That were seized at the border. And then I told myself, oh my God, they're killing our people, must be. So I looked into data, and they sure are. This is overdose death in the United States all the way from 2000 to 2022. Number of overdose deaths is in the chart on the graph. The dark red is a fentanyl. So here in 2023, number of people died is about 107,000 people. United States died of overdose, 80% due to fentanyl. And combining two graphs, I said to myself, maybe attack, maybe is this crazy word, but it is not a form of guns and bombing in the United States, But they are doing same result by pushing fentanyl to the United States. If this is not an attack, I don't know what.
More than World War II.
And then I looked into who are those people who are dying. They're young people. 15 to 24 years old of age of the United States. They are kids. When you think about it, they're the future of the United States. 80% of overdose all due to fentanyl. I don't want to be a conspiracy theory person or anything like that, but when I look at this data, this seems like US is under attack. And they are doing really good job of it. And it's only increasing in skyrocketing amount. If we don't stop this, they are going to kill our people at the rate that we can't accept. Some of the key factors, as I told you, 27,000 pounds of fentanyl can kill all of the United States people 18 times. And this was what was seized by US Border Control. 107 in 2023, 941 people died from drug overdose. That's 0.03% of the total population. It sounds small, but think about the cumulative impact of this death happening in the United States. Put that in perspective. Do you know how many diabetes is 8th leading cause of death in the United States? Diabetes killed 103,294 people. Drug overdose is a bigger killer than diabetes. You see how many medicines for diabetes on TV every day. We should have stopped it. We should have talked about drug overdose. It's killing more people, and our young people are dying. And this study, I'm happy to share this study with you. This study was done by DEA, and it was presented to House Committee of Oversight and Accountability. This was a report done so well. So what I learned about this fentanyl is that there is a global partnership between China and Mexico. In China, majority, if not all, of the fentanyl's ingredients are made in China. All of the ingredients are made in China, then they are shipped to Mexico. Mexico then finalizes these products, and they use their massive distribution network that they do have and push that to the United States. And two cartels, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing this right, but Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco cartel are the two main players of the Mexico who are pushing this fentanyl to the United States. And the real kick is that it's China that then, United States, the drug cartels, all these drug dealers have these proceeds from the drug selling, right? Chinese money laundering organization take all that money, they launder money in the United States, and then they send it back to China, and then they give it back to Mexico cartels. So because China is doing so well of this money laundering for Mexico cartels, it's almost telling Mexico cartels to keep pushing fentanyl into the United States. I'm from South Korea, so I'm already biased when it comes to China. When I saw this, United States is under attack.
Jinny? Scary. Would it be a logical conclusion that based on the high amount in 2023 of fentanyl coming in, I would see that Biden administration might say, yeah, look, we did a great job of stopping it at the border. But if they had, you would expect the number of deaths to also start going down. Is that a logical connection?
You hit the nail, exactly. They could say, oh my God, we stopped so much of the fentanyl, look at that. If that's the case, this death chart should go backward, right? That's why I looked into the death and to see if that was all seized or not. This drug overdose chart will tell you, they're pushing as much as humanly possible, and some are getting caught, but a lot more are coming through. And the other thing I kind of skipped is that when they tested the fentanyl pills that they seized, they tested them, and 42% of those pills are lethal dosage. So that tells you they are not giving the drugs into the United States to get people high. They're sending drugs to kill. Because as a drug dealer, if you think about it, if you really want to keep making the money, you want people to get high, right? Just keep buying them. But you don't want to kill your customers. But they are killing the customers. If this is not intentional, they will be losing money, but this is their intention, is only reason that it makes sense.
The deaths in that age group from whatever to whatever.
15 to 24.
What percentage of that age group is that?
I don't have the exact number with me, but I do have it on my computer. But basically, the people who are in age bracket of 15 to 24, all of the drugs overdose death is 80% due to fentanyl. And this chart is showing you from 2001 to 2021 how much of the drug overdose is increasing, as well as how much that is due to fentanyl.
And that part of our population is
Exactly, they are trying to kill our young ones.
the military age.
Military age, yeah. I know, I'm scaring a lot of people, sorry about that. So then let's talk about something else, then border security. So based on border security chart that I showed you, a lot of chart, illegal immigrants, the cost to the United States, as well as what is happening with the drug, I think my analysis tells me that Trump had a better track record than Biden. Now let's talk about economy. So in economy, I thought about a lot of different data sets, I played with a lot of different numbers, and I kind of came to the conclusion with particular data. Yes, I could talk to you about GDP data, export to import, and all of these things, but who cares? Economy, because given the fact the US economy is majority driven by consumer spending, it really is important what American people feel about the confidence of the economy more than anything else. And this chart was the best chart I could find. And this data is from Gallup. As you can tell, US economy confidence is much lower under Biden. So from 2017 to 2000, that's when Trump was a president. And that's the point that Biden assumes the office, and the confidence just goes nosedive. This is not anything but how the US American people feel about the confidence of the United States economy. And I think this is also in line with a lot of how people feel about economy. But that's not really is enough. So I wanted to look into how people are saving money. So this data is from the Bureau of Economics. And this was actually from Fed Reserve Bank from the San Francisco analysis. So what this is trying to tell you is a personal savings. Remember we talked about inflation and real wage? When your real wage is higher, people start saving a little bit, right? Because your wage is growing, therefore you get to have a little bit of extra, you can save into your bank account. So personal saving was going up under Trump time. And as you know, we had a pandemic, right? So Trump, when he shut down all the US economy, some people hate it, somebody love it. However the case, from the economy side perspective, he also spent a lot of money into the society. So a lot of people got the stimulus check from the government and so forth. So people had a lot of money that saved up from that stimulus checks, which was great. I don't want to sound like I'm Trump lover or Trump supporter, but what data have found is that he did a little too perfect, which I hate to say that actually, because Trump gave a lot of money when we shut down the US economy. And people had that money to save up, to spend it on day-to-day lives. And when he left the presidency, we came right back to pre-pandemic level. It was almost done perfectly. So when Trump left the presidency, yes, he put a lot of money into the economy, but that was just enough to get through the shutdown of the US economy. So when he left, we came back to pre-pandemic level like nothing happened. Great, just keep doing it. Every economist, every finance people say stop spending more money, but Biden decided, no, we're gonna give the money away. So he spent a lot of money to people, and as you can see, there was a huge surplus in people's banks because there was a lot of money coming from government, which was great, but soon after, as we all expected, inflation skyrocketed from the previous page I showed you, and people had to spend all of their savings to just make an ends meet. So we spent all of our savings that we once had. That was $3 trillion. $2.1 trillion we spent. We almost spent all of it. And then I also wanted to think about, okay, did everybody just had a personal savings that just spent it all, but still we're coming back down to the pre-pandemic level, or are we racking up the debt? So I wanted to look at credit card debts. So this is a credit card debt in the United States as a cumulative. This was 2017 to 2020 when Trump left office, and this is when Biden assumes the office. When Biden assumed the office, honestly speaking, he had a really good thing going on, don't you think? We didn't have a debt. People did not have a credit card debt. It's almost like a historic low level. Now, it is historic record high. US economy, credit card debt is at a 1 trillion level. We've never been that high in US history. A lot of economists always talk about this is a time bomb waiting to go off. So as you all personally feel during Trump time and then during Biden time, you're feeling the pinch every time you're spending your money. But do you know one entity that is doing really well? US government. This is from the time Biden took an office and all the way till May 2024. I downloaded this data from Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's just the pure data put into the graph time. It's at 23 million people. Let me put that in perspective for you. How many people in the United States?
330 million.
Great. 333 million. About half of those people are working probably, right? Because there's a lot of young people and a lot of retired people at the end. So to be generous, let's call that half of the people are working. So 333 million divided by 2 is about 165. Okay, I'm trying to do math in my head. Something like that. 165 million people. US government hires 23 million people. Let's put that in perspective again. I looked at that number, I thought that number was wrong. And my husband is also in finance, so I asked him, hey, is this only federal or this is state and local? I was like, no, this is all federal, US government. But really, that high, 23 million people? He was like, yeah, 23 million people, US government. Then I said, okay, what about private sector? So I downloaded the data again, and I found top 100 company of the United States by employee, not by market cap or anything like that, by purely employee number. Number 1 is Walmart, 2.7 million. Second company is Amazon, 2.1 million. If you guys are interested in data, I have the whole data set. So if I combined all of the top 100 companies in the United States by employee, comes down to only 21 million. I was like, what? This is the United States? This is a socialism, isn't it? Remember? I was thinking, I thought I was trying to convince you guys you should choose capitalism versus socialism. And then I told myself, oh my God, it is a socialism here. I don't even know what to tell you. So the market cap of the top 100 company is a 22 trillion US dollars. So then I said, okay, what is the biggest market cap company in the United States? It's Microsoft. At 3.1 trillion, that's it. US government, by far the biggest employer than any other one of them, even combined. Top 100 companies don't even come close to the US government. Yes, sir?
When you say government employees, is that including military?
Yes,
See, that's why.
I believe so. It includes FBI, includes all the judiciary systems and so forth. It doesn't include a state and local.
But it is the military
Correct, because it's U.S. government. But you know what? They're working for U.S. government, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah, but that's a very large group all by itself.
Yeah, it is.
Correct. U.S. government, the military, all of the spending, it's about what, 800 billion? Still doesn't come close on these numbers, though. There's a whole lot more.
And it shows the years.
Yep, I literally just downloaded data and just showed you the graph. I didn't do any data to it. I didn't do analysis to it. Just showed you.
So we don't have military.
Well, the government
So what-
can't
what I-
get enough soldiers too now, so.
Yeah, and well, what I was saying to this gentleman is that we've always had that military and it's been big.
Yep.
Actually, we've been losing people.
That's actually a great point. That U.S. military always been there. So the increase and U.S. military all of a sudden didn't hire a lot of people.
No, it came.
So who are these freaking people getting hired
Yeah.
under Biden? I don't know, but
Yeah.
not only that U.S. government should work for us, no, we work for them. Right? In the end of the day, we are all working for U.S. government, which really I hated about this particular data when I put together.
Top 100 companies, there's probably a whole bunch of them that are building stuff for the military.
Yeah. Amazon and Walmart and all of these companies are real companies. Nobody hired during the Biden time like this straight up. I can tell you that straight up. No way. So now let's go back to the very beginning. Remember we did assessment card? So now let's think about what the report card tells you. So it's the same 5 buckets that we talked about. So inflation. I think it's clear to say Trump wins. Under Trump, inflation was one of the lowest, making Trump presidency as the 4th lowest inflation, while Biden is the 3rd highest inflation president. And real wage adjusted, Trump had the highest and the most growing real wage compared to Biden and Obama. And cumulative inflation in the US since Biden took in office is 18%. So I think I will say Trump wins in this particular category. Next category, immigration and border security. Hate to say, but Trump wins again. Under Trump, illegal crossing was much lower, much lower than under Biden. Under Biden, 7.5 million encounters nationwide. That includes 1.7 million known getaway. Always makes me wonder, how many unknown getaways are there? Right? It's unknown of unknown. I don't know. It could be 10, it could be 1, it could be nothing. I don't know. But it's a lot, I'm assuming. And the fiscal burden of the illegal immigrants is about 157 billion, 2023 alone. So Trump wins again. Economy, government spending. Trump wins again. US economy confidence was much lower and much bigger concern under Biden than compared to Trump. America used all of the savings and now racking up the credit card, and the credit card debt is while US government payroll is recording high at 23.7 million. That really pissed me off, actually. Okay, next bucket, threat to democracy. That's a split, right? If somebody believes in a certain way about one way or another, let's be honest. There's no data I can show you that I'm gonna change your mind one way or another. Just a split. So let's go through that, right? Abortion, under Trump, it was the Supreme Court decided abortion should be up to the state, not federal. But Trump also talks about he's pro-life. Biden wants abortion to be federal decision, not state. He wants to reverse the Supreme Court decision and to bring it back to the federal level. And Biden is a pro-choice. He's proud to say so a lot of times. He supports abortion without limit. Gun control, Second Amendment. Trump supports Second Amendment. Biden wants much stricter gun control, and he has done a lot of rules and policies he put in place to restrict the gun sale while he was president. Energy, climate control. Trump supports American energy independence and policy. That's really important to him. And he loves to say, drill, baby, drill. I don't really like that word, but that's what he uses. Biden wants half of all new cars and trucks sold in 2013 would be zero emission. That's only 6 years away, guys. And 11 states are joining California of the banning all gas cars and trucks by 2035. Straight out banning it. That's 10 years left. Trump supports female in women's sports and women's protective space. I literally, when I was typing this thing, I was like, God, this is such a weird sentence to write, but yeah, Trump supports female in women's sports in women's protective space. Biden supports transgenders' right in women's sports and women's protective space. Trump supports merit-based when it comes to the race. Biden wants DEI and affirmative action. Okay, so that's the split. Whatever you believe, whichever, is just gonna be it. Foreign policy. I would say Trump mostly wins. Under Trump, there was no new war. No war was happening. Under Biden, as you guys all know, Russia invaded Ukraine and now in war for more than 2 years. And the United States spent almost $100 billion since 2022 in that war. Imagine what that money can do for our veterans. And Hamas attacked Israel and now in war, full-blown war. And under Biden, the evacuation of Afghanistan is considered a failure, not the right side or the left wing. I think it's a flat out, everybody thinks that it is a failure given the fact after all that money, after all that times, after a lot of soldiers died, whole Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. And not only that, $7 billion worth of US equipment is now in the hands of the Afghanistan. I think it's safe to say it was a failure. Having said that, some people believe Biden's stand on climate control lifted the US standing in global stage. So I wouldn't say it's 100% win, but Trump by and large wins. Thank you.
We all agree.
When I did this study, and when I decided to take on this work, I really was hoping this report card would be maybe 60-40, 73, like somewhat close race. Because I thought that way it looks as though that it would make sense why 50% of the United States supports Democrat side, Biden, and then the other 50% or so supports Trump. It was overwhelmingly Trump, which was not what I intended, nor actually what I was hoping for, because I didn't want my study, my analysis to come out as to say, oh, of course you're gonna say Trump. Well, that's not my point was, but this is how I came out to be. So based on this, unless you don't care about anything else, you don't care about economy, you don't care about the border security, you don't care about inflation, you don't care about economy or foreign policy, you only care about abortion, gun, climate control, climate change, and issues with race and so forth, I don't know how you vote for Trump. Or I'm sorry, how you vote for Biden. Sorry about that. Thank you. I just don't, yeah, maybe to you, nothing is important. It doesn't matter how grocery bill is, you only care abortion. Okay, if that's the case, vote for Biden. But if any of these things are any importance to you, I think you should vote for Trump. So then I thought, okay, is that only me? Is that my analysis wrong? So I looked into what other people are thinking. And this was done by Wall Street Journal and 1,500 registered voters. This was done in December 2023. They asked the voters, both sides, obviously, every economic differences, every age groups, every geography, it's done national level. They asked, economy, who do you think is better? Trump. Inflation, Trump. Crime, Trump. Border security, Trump. Israel, Hamas, Trump. Abortion, Biden. Tone in politics, I don't know what that means, but tone in politics, Biden. So then I thought to myself, I'm not the only one who thinks this way, isn't it? When it comes to these topics, even the Democrats do think that Trump would be better. But there is this tone in politics, right? How many times did you hear people saying this? Trump may have a better record, but I just don't like him. We hear that a lot, right? And quite honestly, I don't really like him either. The things that he says sometimes, it's kind of make my skin cringe. I'm like, oof, don't say that. But at the end of the day, it's voting for presidency. And this was done by Statistica, and this was done asking over 1,000 people whenever they're asked why, mainly dislike Trump because of character. It's not the policy. So when it comes to policies or issues and broad performance, yeah, they all agree. Trump is doing pretty well. But still, he is not presidential-like, he's bad temperament, he's arrogant, he's obnoxious, and da-da-da-da, all of those things. I get it. But at the end of the day, I told you, right? We are hiring a person for the job. It's not high school personality test, who you're gonna go to prom with. And some of the people say, when I did an analysis, and some of my friends, I'm like, do you agree with everything he says? Okay, hold on. I've been married to my husband 16 years. Do you know how many things he says that makes me like, I hate what he just said? Of course. That's the guy I married for 16 years and I don't agree with him everything. Of course I'm not gonna agree with everything Trump says, obviously not. But I'm not marrying him, for God's sake. He's already married. And many times. We are hiring for the job. So, quite honestly, what he did in his bedroom with whatever woman, I don't care. So, and then I told myself, okay, what does the president do? Let's talk about what the president's responsibilities are. So this was a really good one that I found is from the National Constitution Center. According to them, these are the list of the responsibilities of the United States President. First one, Chief of the Executive Branch. He oversees other members in the executive branches and so forth. Yeah, that makes sense. Second one, Leader in war stage. Of course, he's conducting diplomacy on behalf of the United States. Political party leader. He is a party leader, whether it's a Democrat side or Republican side. He's a ceremonial head of the state. He delivers State of Union address to the Congress. He is also Commander-in-Chief, very important, oversees the armed forces of the United States. Legislative power player, he can propose annual budget and he can also veto it. Architect of federal judiciary means he can appoint federal court judges and Supreme Court judges. He's a defender of the Constitution. Law enforcement, of course, he's in charge of all the law enforcement of the United States. National security, same thing. And economic policy. These are a list of the responsibilities of the United States President. I think that you can argue, if you're a Biden supporter or a Trump supporter, that Trump is better and Biden is better, or all other different ways. I don't want to get into a fight. However, when I looked into the responsibilities, based on the track record analysis that we have done, I think it's safe to say Trump wins in 4 categories, pretty straightforward. That's Commander-in-Chief in Armed Forces, law enforcement, national security, and economic policy. As what my analysis showed you, I think these 4 categories, I think Trump can be a good president. Every other category, I was trying to figure out, like, there's a one maybe I can say Biden has done really, really better. Couldn't really do it.
No, Trump did better on the world stage.
Yeah, I didn't want to, I was trying to find something for Biden and
That's why the world is in chaos.
I failed. So that's my analysis of my study.
It's amazing.
So if that was not enough, and I think Hannah did a really wonderful job, why not voting is not an option. I was gonna say a lot of different things, but I'm gonna shut up because she said far better than I did. A couple things are at stake. First one, First Amendment. Freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. That is our First Amendment of the United States Constitution. That is at stake, I believe. And the great example is Minnesota ERA. I'm sure a lot of people know it's called Equal Rights Amendment. And that bill basically says, states shall not discriminate against race, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, sex, including but not limited to pregnancy outcomes, and reproduction freedom, gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. As you can see, this does not include religion. So Minnesota State actually is trying to override US Constitution of a freedom of religion. I think it's safe to say the First Amendment is at stake at this election. Not only that, protection, it removes the protection of a female in sports and women's protective space, bathroom, lockers, shelters, as well as in prison. It removes the protection against the free speech related to the pronouns, languages. It also is going to increase the gender ideology, school curricula. And it's also going to increase taxpayer funded gender affirming care. So if I wasn't able to convince you, you should vote, Hannah convinced you for sure, and who you should vote, however one you want to vote is great, but you got to vote. And you guys should do a real thorough due diligence to try to figure out who you should vote based on facts and data, not feelings. And the other thing that is at stake is Second Amendment, bear to arm. And the one thing I really hate people forgetting, the reason right to bear arm is in Constitution because founding fathers were so freaking smart, they knew a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state. God, weren't they so smart? If North Korean citizens had guns, can you imagine? They will not be under that dictator. Any of the socialistic dictatorship countries, only if they had guns, they would not have had that socialistic or dictators in their histories. So that's at stake. And last but not least, as we talked about capitalism versus socialism, it's really dear to my heart. Freedom versus oppression, as I told you about what happens to a country when you choose socialism versus capitalism. And as I showed you, US government number of employees that they have, we are already in socialism. We need to reverse that trend, otherwise we're all going to work for US government. That's it, that's all the studies I've done for you guys. Happy to take any questions. And I don't have your privilege of voting, so please vote. And vote right. Vote with your conscience. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Jinny? Okay. Yes, we're going to send out the program, her presentation, and we're going to send out